So my lab is, first of all, my lab is at the Technion, which is the Technology Institute of Israel. And my lab is working with cancer, but also with other indication. We are working with how cannabis affect the immune system. And there is, the cancer is very related to immune system. We call it the microenvironment of the cancer. So it's related also to cancer, but also inflammation and other diseases. And we're working on neurodegenerative disease like epilepsy, Alzheimer, and multiple sclerosis. Regarding cancer, my lab focus on leukemia cancer, which is again related to immune system. It's the cancer of the blood cells, with breast cancer and glioblastoma and colon cancer. These are the four main cancers that my lab is operating around. So cancer, it's a given name to more than thousands of different diseases. We have in our body more than 200 types of cells. Each cell will have its own cancer. So breast cancer is very different from leukemia, or very different from a skin cancer or for glioblastoma. These like different creatures. There are cells in our body, but each one of them have different characterism, and the cancer sometimes can be the opposite. One treatment for one cancer can be very worse to the other cancer, and for that reason, there is no way that one drug will affect all cancers. And even in one type of cancer, like breast cancer, we have many types, subtypes. So in breast cancer, we have more than 20 different subtypes of cancer. So altogether, we're talking about something like 1,000 different diseases. We call it, cancer as we put them in a box. In 1996, there was a publication that called it the 6 hallmarks. Said every time that we will see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we will call it cancer. But it's actually very different diseases. For that reason, not just cannabis. There is no drug or no cure to all cancer. We are trying to cure each one of them in a different way. Sometimes there is drugs or treatment that can group few types of cancer with the same profile. But in general, it's very specific to type of cancer. Right, so cannabis affecting the cell through the endocannabinoid system. Our body have a system that produce similar molecules called endocannabinoids, and there are receptors that on the cell that capturing these molecules, and it's signaling. They are signaling to the cell. And this is our native. This is what we have in our body. How we are feeling appetite, pain, sleep, glucose metabolism, and so on, being controlled by the endocannabinoid system. The cannabis is operated through these signals. And the question in which cancer these signals are playing a role and how cannabis is affecting them. And as I said in the beginning, it's very specific to the combination of the cannabinoids in the cannabis itself. Cannabis, it's also, it's a given name to hundreds of or thousands of different chemovars, different types of cannabis. In my lab, I have more than 1,000 different cannabis strains that have different combination of these molecules. And now we need to match which combination of molecule can affect which cancer. First of all, as I said, I don't believe it will match all the cancers, but now I'm trying to fit. So for an example, we found from screening around 250 different types of cannabis, one strain that was very efficient to kill the leukemia cells, but not all the leukemia cells, just leukemia cells that harboring a specific mutation called Notch1. Around 50% of the TLL patient, which is type of leukemia, will have this mutation. So in TLL, it's 50% of the cancer cells. Other type of leukemia called CLL is just 20% of the patient. But if you know that the patient is a TLL patient or leukemia patient that harboring Notch1, so we already know which combination of molecule we block the mutation, and by that the cells can survive and die. So if the cells have the mutation, we can kill it. So it's killing just the cancer cells and not normal cells, but just cancer that fit to this profile that have this mutation. So it's kind of very specific. We'll call it personal medicine, okay? It's not really personal. It's not one person and that's it. But it's a group
more like
of
a
people
tailor-made thing,
that have,
special person.
yeah. So it's a group of people that have this type of cancer with this type of mutation. And for that, we already know the molecules. We know what receptor, which receptor they are binding, what are the signaling, and why it's killing the cancer. And we are starting clinical trials in humans to show that it's not just in mice, it's also help humans. So I do believe, if 4 years ago, we said that we believe we can find such a things, today we already have in few types of cancers, we know what are the molecules and what exactly they're doing. And we're doing clinical trials in humans to show exactly that it's work efficiently in humans. The plus about that these molecules, these cannabinoids, it's very, very small side effect, or they're not toxic. If we're talking about chemotherapy or even other drugs today that have immunotherapy and other, they have very, very strong and severe side effects that the patients suffer from this treatment, and it's hurt other organs and other cells in the body. In the cannabinoids, they are very, very mild in the effect of other cells, and actually the side effects are so minor, it can increase appetite, but that's the level, right? It's not your hairs and your teeth are falling and you're suffering from pain like in chemotherapy. So that's the advantage and the promise in these molecules, right? So, people are telling me when I'm giving lecture, why to use chemotherapy when we can use plants and things from the nature. They just don't know that the other chemotherapies are also coming from plants and the nature, right? Taxol, which is a major chemotherapy, coming from a plant called Taxus, and another two very strong and very used chemotherapy, vincristine, vinblastine, coming from a plant called Vinca. But these, there are very strong poisons in plant. That it's coming from plant, it doesn't mean that it's good for us, okay? Cannabinoids are very light or very mild, and for that reason, there is no strong effect on other cells, and this is a big promise. And we know already that thousands of people, in Israel, 130,000 patients getting cannabis every month. So we already know that it's not toxic, the side effects are very minor, and if it can kill cancer, it's a huge promise. Yeah, so this is a general question about science and not just about cannabinoids, okay? If we are studying Alzheimer, whether all the Alzheimer scientists working together. And the answer is yes. Scientists in general, we're getting money to create knowledge and to give it away. We're publishing our data in public sources. And also we usually trying to collaborate during the day, during the road, during the work. So first of all, there are conferences, international conferences that we're sharing data. Sometimes we collaborating together on a daily basis. There are a lot of grants, like money that being given, that it's collaborative. So there is, let's say, Horizon 2020 of the European, that giving a lot of money, like $10 million for each project, that create collaborations. And you need to understand that this good scientists understand what I'm about to say, that science is a big puzzle. If you are a good scientist, you will put one of these pieces on the board, okay? If you are an amazing scientist, you will put 3 to 4 pieces on the board. You will never have the whole picture by yourself. And in order to get the picture, one scientist put one piece and the others put another piece, and another lab will put another piece, and we're publishing and we're building this build on the brick of each other's. And in the end, you get kind of a whole picture. But we must share the data. It's impossible for one scientist to really have a knowledge. And that's the idea of being scientist. You know, Einstein said, and 50, 60 years ago, that somebody that have the privilege to learn and to know have the duty to share and to talk. So I think this is the basic of academia and science. And I believe that we all believe in that and doing that. So in Israel, from 2007, cannabis is under healthcare. Israel is kind of public healthcare, which we call it semi-public. So we have private healthcare, but everyone in Israel, every citizen have insurance to this, private healthcare. So if you're working, it will deductible from your salary. If you're not working, the government will cover that. So when I'm going to a physician or to a hospital, I'm not paying, and I don't care about the money. Somebody else, or on top of that, will take care. So the hospital will charge for that, but not me. It will go to whatever I'm insured. So I, as a citizen, don't care, and the physician don't care. We are kind of, it's above us. It's somewhere in the air, okay? So it's kind of getting benefit from both sides. It's kind of public. There is a reason for them, the hospital, to compete with each other, that the best hospital want everybody to come to him because he's making more money. But for me as a citizen, I don't care about it. I don't see that, okay? I will choose where to go if I think it's better or less. Cannabis is under healthcare. So when a patient goes to a physician, the physician decides to give him cannabis, he will write a prescription for cannabis, and the patient will go to the pharmacy and will get cannabis. And I think for that reason, it's become very popular, or I wouldn't say popular, but very acceptable to get cannabis as a medicine instead of other medicines. And in places that physicians see that it's really have benefit, they will prescribe more. And when they think that there is no benefit, it's kind of, they will stop prescribe and it will disappear. And we see that one good example is the autistic kids that we started to treat them in 2017. And after a few hundred kids, like after even around 100, the success was so good. These kids started to sleep better. They started to have less anxiety, less violent, more communication, and quite fast. Almost all the autistic kids started, I'm talking about very severe autistic kids, started to get cannabis. So it was between just trying to have everybody, almost in a year, there was a big jump because the success was very, very high. In other indication, when we didn't see success, you see how it started and going and disappearing. So I think the system is working quite good. Another good benefit of that, because it's under healthcare, it's easy to collect the data. Now, every patient that coming to a doctor, the doctor is typing, and we know what is getting and what is the outcome. It's not just going to a dispensary like in Canada or in the United States. It's get something. You don't know exactly what you're getting. In Israel, it's more accurate and precise. Not perfect. Still, there is a lot to learn. We don't know much yet. It's extremely complicated because it's a lot of indication. Part of the patient getting it for pain, part of them for post-trauma, part of them for inflammation, bowel disease like chronic colitis, part of them are autistic. So it's very, very different population. And we have a lot of types of cannabis, so many kind of medicines, I will call that. So it's still very complicated and still a lot of trial and error, which patient need to get what. But in general, I think we are knowing all the regulation in the world and how it's working in the world. I think the system in Israel is very, very good, creating it slowly from 2007, learning which types of patients should get it, which type of patients shouldn't get it, which type of cannabis is better than the other, how to grow it and to give it to the patient in very reliable way that it will grow very safe It won't have pesticides and bacteria and the fungi on that, and so on and so on. We need to remember that it's sometimes very, very severe patient getting cannabis as a medicine. Think about oncology patient, cancer patient that getting chemotherapy or radiation, and now getting cannabis to reduce pain, nausea, or increase appetite. This patient have, after chemotherapy or radiation, his immune system is very, very weak. So you need that these flowers won't have fungi or bacteria or many things that usually you can have on plants because they can be, it can hurt them very strong. So it's very important that it will be controlled in a very high level, almost like a medicine that's been produced in the factory. First of all, I will distinguish totally between recreational use to medical use, okay? Recreational use is when somebody is using it just for fun. And this is a different story. It's a social question, which I'm not dealing with. But on the medical side, I think the cannabis is very, very effective in few diseases. And it's very important that we will know how to treat the patient. And we want, combine these two as one, there are places that did a legalization of cannabis, like Canada or United States, that everybody can use it recreationally everywhere. You can smoke cannabis and that. But this a little bit interfere with the medical side, because if you're doing something just for fun, it doesn't look like a medicine, right? And also the quality of the material can be totally different and everything different. We need to remember that in the end, we need to help this patient and we need to separate them. I don't care that this is also fun. I care now if a child with epilepsy, 30 seizures a day that have no other treatment, if I can give him cannabis and it's helping, this is my duty as a community, right? As a country. And we need to take care of these kids. I don't care that if it's legal or not, this kid should get his medicine in the best way and doesn't need to pay for that $4,000. He need to get it from the government, and it should be controlled, and so on and so on. And I will go, if I was in the government, or if your government would ask me, I will say, first of all, starting with medicinal cannabis. First of all, I don't care about the recreational, this is social questions. As a medicine, we prescribe medicine which are drugs like morphine or other drugs. We prescribe antibiotic, we prescribe many things that are dangerous, but we control it. So I don't care if this cannabis can also, you can feel high or not. If it can cure a patient or can help him with his life, it's our duty to help life, okay? And this is the duty of the government. Start with your duty. After that, think about other things. Economically, how much money the country can do, if it's good for tourism. This is a totally different story. First of all, as a government, it's your duty to take care of your citizens and your patient. Start with that. So this was my first advice, okay? After that, it's coming from things that getting out of my hand. I can convince today every physician and every government authority, and I'm teaching physicians in Israel to treat with cannabis. I can explain every physician why this is a medicine, how it's work, on which part of the body, which cells. I can connect the herbal medicine with the modern medicine, with the explanation on the way that every physician will understand why it's real, why it's not just a hype or just somebody saying something in the corridor. This is real. And having this ability to explain, I think in Israel was extremely, extremely important. For years, I'm going in the hospital and giving lectures. I had this week one lecture, I have in the next week another two. I'm going in different departments, different hospital, and giving lectures to the physician, and it's always starting with, hey, yeah, it's cannabis, and ending with, oh, this is amazing, teach us how to use it. And I think this is extremely important. The education of the physician, it's a big start. First of all, as a chemist, I believe that a molecule, it's a molecule, and it's a molecule. I don't care if I'm taking it from the plant, if it's pure, or I make it synthetic. If it's the same molecule, it's the same molecule, okay? This is my belief. Second, when we're working with the plant, one of the first things that my lab succeeded to do, or in 2016, is to analyze all the phytocannabinoids and all the active molecules. And we have standard to all of them. So today, when I'm taking a plant, even if you have 80 molecules inside, I know to quantify all of them and to make that it will be always the same, or at least to read that and to bring it to the patient, to dilute it in a way that he will get it always the same amount. That's first. Second, part of what we're doing today in the world, when I can analyze all these molecules, I can cut a piece of them that I know that is important. Sometimes I don't need all the molecules. Let's say I define 2 molecules that help you to go to sleep, feeling tired and sleep better, okay? But in this plant, there is also the THC that calls you to feel, high, or, to hallucinogenic effect, and other molecules that cause you to feel appetite and to be hungry, okay? I can cut them out. I can take the piece just with the molecules and make you to feel sleepy. And by that, I'm creating a product that is more precise, more accurate, with less side effect, but still medical cannabis, still in oil, but not with all the molecules, with some of them. Okay, so it's still from the plant, still under medical cannabis regulation, but more accurate, more precise, and without side effects. Third, one of the problems, okay, or not the problems, that all the drugs, all the FDA drugs, and we will talk about that in a moment, I guess, the FDA drugs usually are single molecule to single target. What we see in the plant, it's what we call polypharmacology, when we are attacking a disease or a cell from more than one molecules. In the past, the FDA didn't authorize it because they're afraid from drug-drug interaction. Today, when we have computers and analytical tools, and we can understand different networks with the computers, it's become more and more acceptable, so we can use it more. One of the reasons I believe cannabis will divide in 2 routes. One route will be very accurate, maybe synthetic, maybe combination from the plants of molecules that are treating a very specific disease. And the other route will be the whole plant. And when we will need it, a whole plant, when we're using it for improving quality of life. Almost 80%, even a little bit more than 80% of all the patients in Israel getting cannabis to improve quality of life. And what is the meaning of that? If you're a chronic patient or chronic pain patient, you're suffering from pain, but also probably you don't sleep well, you don't eat well, you have anxiety, you're suffering for a lot of things together, and cannabis helping a little bit in each one of them, a little bit reduce the pain, a little bit help you to sleep, a little bit improve your mood, and altogether you're treating quality of life. Cancer patient that getting chemotherapy or radiation, suffering from pain, nausea, problem to sleep, mood, anxiety, and the cannabis, instead of taking 6 drugs, you're taking cannabis that a little bit reduce the pain, a little bit reduce the nausea, increase your appetite, affect the sleep, and altogether you're improving the quality of life of the patient. But these 3 molecules affecting sleep, and these 2 molecules reducing pain, and these 2 molecules affect the nausea. And altogether, we're talking about many molecules in the plant that are doing many things. And for that, I probably will stay with the plant and not with single molecules or synthetic. So there is 2 sides of the same coin. Okay. So there is a drug called Marinol that is a pure THC, and it's a drug for many years. The FDA doesn't care where the molecule comes. It's the fact that it's synthetic, purified, and single molecule. So if you take a synthetic, purified single molecules from cannabis and you go all the route of the FDA won't care that it's coming from cannabis. The breakthrough was that actually GW as a company succeed to cross with the Sativax, which was 50% THC, 50% CBD from plants. So they combined two plants to have a ratio of 1-to-1 THC and CBD, and this succeed to cross the FDA. And this was a breakthrough in two ways. One, it's plant derivative cannabinoid. It was two molecules together, and they succeed to cross it for FDA to prove the FDA they can always bring the ratio of the THC and CBD to 1-to-1, and these are two plants that they can grow always the same way, and they are very safe. And this is the breakthrough is they understand that you can take a plant and use it as a plant, as a medicine that authorized by the FDA. So it's not just that it's cannabis, it's way more than that. It's open a concept of herbal medicine through the FDA or how to do that. And I believe that, and I'm with discussion with the FDA in here and there, and I believe that the FDA is starting to be more and more open-minded to understand that, first of all, cannabis is not just a gimmick. It's really medicine that's helping in a lot of cases. Second, that we need to start to authorize medicines that are more complicated than just synthetic single molecules. There are many diseases, like neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer or ALS, cancers or other diseases that we are hitting our head to the wall for 15 years, 50 years to try to solve them, and don't even start to scratch, something. And it's probably will come with more complicated treatments and more complicated drugs. And cannabis is just harboring this complication inside, because of the many molecules that they are approaching many cells and affecting many receptors. You have it within in the cannabis. But I believe it's opening a door and a window to many herbal medicine, many plant medicines that will stay on the side for many years, like archinicea, ginkgo, types of mushrooms, because they were too complicated for the regulation to understand them, and they put them aside. And I think cannabis, more than the plant itself, it's opened a door to more complicated plant medicine. And I think this is the next 20 years, we'll see that more and more. Cannabis is already there. It's already opened the door. It's already, country like Israel, cannabis is a medicine. It's not a question. It's already, the regular thing. It's already the average person. So I think the next generation will be more plants, more complicated. There are still places in the world that are a little bit behind. In this morning, I gave a talk in Thailand.
Yeah.
In Thailand, they're just starting to open. And, they are very proud that 3,000 patients are already getting that. And I'm thinking about the size of Thailand and the size of Israel. We have 130,000 patients getting the 3,000. So there is a lot to go ahead. Panama authorized cannabis, just like medical cannabis, like last week. So it's just starting to get the rhythm. But in the bottom line, I think the bottom line, what's important and what's really important, it's our duty to help patient to live or people, humans, to live better. And it's not a joke. It's not just economic. It's not how much we can sell or import or export. It's people that suffer every day, and we can help them. And this is extremely, extremely important, to do everything that we can, not to close our eyes, not to be afraid, to do everything we can help them. And sometimes we need to be aware that we're doing something wrong, and to go back and to go forward until we will find the way that people will have better life. And cannabis is part of that, and playing a big part, because it's helping a lot of people. Since Israel, the country is kind of sponsor or subsidize the medicines, the government and the regulation and the hospital have a reason, or have, they want cheap medicines. They prefer cheap medicine. And this is one of the reasons why the regulator and the government here in Israel kind of pushing or helping the research. Because if cannabis can replace a medicine that costs a lot of money, there is interest to the government and the healthcare here to do that. And 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I got sponsored by a company from the state. It's kind of a pharma company. But this guy that opened this company, he was a very rich person. He did few exits before that. And he opened a pharma company that the idea was to produce very cheap medicines for Africa and for other countries that can't pay. And when he saw my lecture, he donated $2.5 million to my lab, because he thought this is an amazing option for a cheap medicines for these countries. So I think our duty is to help, but also because cannabis is in the end very cheap medicine, there should be interest for government and for the healthcare to support it, because then it's easier and cheap treatment. So we need to know how to speak with the government and the regulation to convince them. This is part of the way to do that. And another section, and again, we did a clinical trial of 2,800 pain patients. And we showed that the patient that getting cannabis and being treated, actually, one of the effects that we see, that more and more of them starting to work full-time job or partial-time job. So most of these chronic pain patients didn't work. They were so suffering and so that they was out of the circle of work. But starting to take cannabis, feeling better, more and more started to work. And this is another thing that convincing governments, that think about economy, that in the end, there is kind of conception, or at least, when I started to work in 2014, 15, people think, if somebody will now smoke cannabis, he will lay on the couch and do nothing. But actually, the results, it's exactly the opposite. 30% of them starting to work full-time job. Another 25% starting to work partial-time jobs. So economically, they are starting to work there. They are better. They're starting to be part of the society, but also they started to make money, pay taxes. If you calculate these kind of things, economically, actually, it's very, very important. And when you coming to the government, when I'm sitting in these committees and I'm showing this, it's changing the concept of the regulators, the government, which have a bad concept. The guy will sit on the couch, he will smoke, he wouldn't do nothing. It's actually the opposite.